32 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate podcast. I am Lucas Dorton. I am joined by Nicholas Doetkott, the man himself. How are we doing tonight, Mr. Doetkott?
Doing all right. The throw's not really, I don't know.
Not cooperating with you.
Tonight. You know, I was camp this weekend, barely took a shower. It wasn't good for the good old throw.
I mean, that is just huge.
There we go. It's getting there. We're getting there.
Oh, God. I love it. I love it.
You tell the 15 people a day who tell me to get a haircut that. You tell them that.
Do you even, use a pillow at night, or could you just honestly bundle your hair up and sleep on it?
I mean, I probably could. But,
Well,
I use a pillow. I need a little extra padding, but
fair.
I pretty much got a pillow on my head.
Oh, you love to see it. Love to see it. Well, we're going to get into some sports talk. A few extensions that happened. Besides that, not a whole lot going on. We're going to talk about a couple other things, and then we are also going to be doing some NHL and NBA playoff predictions. Now, yes, by the time this episode is out there and you'll be seeing it, we are aware that the NHL playoffs have already started. So we both made our brackets before the playoffs started, just, to be sure that we weren't cheating or anything.
Before Tuukka sat out on me.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. I'll just say that much. But anyways, we will get to some other news first before we get into those playoff predictions. Patriots make another signing in the free agent market. They sign former Texan and Miami Dolphin, my boy Lamar Miller, to a one-year deal. I like this. Lamar Miller has always been one of the more consistent running backs in football. He's not a guy that's, the Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey type guys that is just going to light up the scoreboard. Mm-hmm. But he's just consistently going to get you yards. He's a very smart runner. He really knows what to do. And I think that he's going to work great for the Patriots. Do you like this deal for New England?
I do. It's tough to say what that offense is going to be like now that Brady's gone. But for the last 2 decades, that offense hasn't really been a ground and pound game. They use a variety of different running backs to run it here and there, but a lot of times the running backs are mainly used as pass catchers. Lamar Miller's pretty good in the pass game. He's a veteran running back, which he'll need, and he played 13 games his rookie year, and he's played 14 or more every other year. So he's going to stay healthy for you.
Yeah.
And with a young quarterback, most likely, it'd be nice to have some experience in the backfield at the very least. So I like the signing. I mean, I don't think Lamar Miller's great. I've never thought he was that great, but he's a decent running back.
He's consistent.
That's worth a signing for sure.
You know what you're going to get from him. You know what you're going to get from him.
And there's some guys like that where you're not going to get anything great from him, but you're at least going to get consistency and some solid play, and that's totally fine.
Yep, I'm happy with that. Obviously, he is coming off of a torn ACL, which he suffered in the preseason before last year's NFL season. So he didn't play at all last year. So now,
I guess besides last year.
Well, right. I mean, but leading up to that, though, I mean, he really was he was healthy. He played, every single year. He's definitely a guy that you want on your team. Like we both kind of mentioned, we kind of understand it's one of those things where I think every once in a while can pop off and have big games, but he's not necessarily known for doing that. Yeah. He's going to get you the yards that you need. And I mean, I'm not saying he comes in on third downs and he gets you 5 yards and then comes out. I mean, he'll play the whole game. Just don't expect him to get, 150 plus yards every single game. But he's going to be consistent and get you those yards, help you win.
Yep.
Another extension here, Green Bay Packers and Kenny Clark, the defensive tackle, 5-year, $75 million extension. By
the way, just to back up, I had said how the quarterback for New England is going to be young most likely, but here
totally forgetting they just got Cam Newton. So I guess I'm wrong on that.
Well, I
Newton's
mean,
not
unless Stidham
But-
starts, you never know.
Which potentially, but I would doubt it. But yeah, I had completely forgotten there for a second that they had Cam Newton. So just
all good.
disregard that.
Hey, that's all right. Everyone gets a mulligan. We'll give you that mulligan there on that one.
I wish I had like 10 of them when I actually go.
Yeah, ditto. I feel you on that one. But yeah, Kenny Clark, Packers, 5-year, $75 million extension. I mean, you know, he's a guy that's kind of been a staple on the defense. Again, not one of the most well-known guys out there, but he fits with the Packers. He gets the job done. Now, I will say, he usually gets the job done, unlike that playoff game last year where Mostert absolutely ran all over that Green Bay defense. And being on the front line of the defense, it certainly doesn't help the case much. But as a Vikings fan, you probably know a little bit more about this guy than I do. What do you got to say about him?
I love the move because it's a bad move, and I'm a Viking fan.
Oh, yeah? Why is it a bad move? Let's hear it.
He's the highest paid defensive tackle, and he's not even close to the best one. I mean, and the Packers, I mean, this is not the Viking fan in me. This is just true facts. They've been very bad with their salary cap the last few years. Like, there's not that many great players on that team. Like, there's Rodgers. They're a good team, but for years it was mainly just because of Rodgers, right? Yet they never have any money because they give bad contracts out. And they're doing it again. They hardly ever have money to get anybody because they give guys who shouldn't get this much money way too much money. Kenny Clark is a good player, yes. Is he worth $15 million a year to play one of, in my opinion, the least important positions on the field? In my opinion. Some people might differ from that, but I just don't think a nose tackle is worth that much money. And they're giving him $15 million for 5 years. I don't know. I don't think it's a good signing.
Yeah, again, I mean, from what I have heard, but my team is completely in the other conference, so I don't really see the Packers and Kenny Clark much.
Well, let's put it this
know.
way. I couldn't tell you what Kenny Clark did against the Vikings in 2 games because it was all about Zadarius and Preston Smith against the Vikings. They were mauling Kirk Cousins. I didn't hear Kenny Clark at all. It was Zadarius and Preston Smith because they're the pass rushers. They're the guys who are really important. I'm not saying deep tackles aren't important, and the Packers' run defense was pretty good last year up until the playoffs, which I'm sure Kenny Clark has a lot to do with that. But I just don't think a defensive tackle is worth $15 million unless you're like Aaron Donald or something like that. And like I said, the Packers have had problems enough the last few years with salary cap. They're just adding to it now.
Yeah.
But then again, Rodgers is going to be gone in 2 years. They're going to be paying their quarterback nothing anyways. So
yeah, Jordan Love's going to still be on that rookie contract.
Right.
I mean, maybe, you know, obviously the Packers maybe know something that we don't. Maybe they would rather have him on their team and overpay him than to let him go. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe when we do our team review, we do the Packers. We'll ask the Packer fan what they feel.
I mean, they could be looking at it this way. We got 2-3 years left with Rodgers, you know, most likely. Or even if Rodgers was there another 5 years, which I think is unlikely, there's probably only another 2 or 3 years where Rodgers is, you know, really good yet. And they had a pretty good defense last year, and it brought them to the NFC Championship game, right? So maybe they figure, well, we'll overpay this guy a little bit in order to have Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, and Kenny Clark on our D-line for 2-3 years. And then they got, you know, some decent secondaries back there. Jair Alexander is really good. So maybe they're just looking at it, hey, we're going to put all our chips on the table for these 3 years. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but we're going to go for it. So, I mean, if that's their approach, then fine. But like I said, it's tough to say with these because it's tough to know if they could have been able to get the guy for less. Like, if you could have got the guy for less, well, then this is a bad deal. But could you have? Who knows? I mean, I find it hard to believe they couldn't have got a little less for him. Like, I find it hard to believe they couldn't have offered him like 12.5 a year and he would have said no. But I don't know.
It's all interesting. We'll definitely have to keep a close eye on Kenny Clark this year, see how he does. It's always hard for defensive tackles, I feel at least as just a fan, to kind of, you know, try and figure out their worth. You know, they're not the defensive end getting all the sacks and tackles. They're not the cornerback getting the picks. And it's hard with the defensive tackle because, well, their worth, you almost have to look beyond the stat sheet because they're not going to be getting, 100 plus tackles a year, and they're not going to be getting 10 plus sacks a year unless your name is Aaron Donald, of course.
Or like Geno Atkins.
Or Atkins, yeah. That's about the only, only asterisk next to that list there. A lot of their worth is just kind of, well, how's the run game? How's the run game against them that week? And then, are they clogging up the lanes? Are they, pushing the offensive lineman back to put pressure into the quarterback? So it's a lot of the stuff that you don't see in the stat sheet that you kind of have to look at defensive tackles for. So I don't know. We'll have to look and see if that changes much at all. Who knows? The Kansas City Chiefs are getting back their tight end for at least another 4 more years. Travis Kelce, 4-year, $57 million extension. Now, I believe in total he'll be there now for 6 years because I believe he had 2 years left on this other deal plus another 4 now. So, quick math, 4 + 2 = 6.
Good job.
That was tough, but I got through it. 4-year, $57 million extension. Yeah, you can't go wrong with this. I mean, arguably he's, to some, the best tight end in the game. Him and George Kittle kind of can go back and forth. But, Mahomes gets his guy back. The Chiefs get one of their best offensive weapons back. And maybe lock him up for those, now hopefully another 6 more years. Kelce and Mahomes, we'll have to see how that goes. Maybe helps out win a couple more Super Bowls in the process. How do you feel about that?
I love it. I mean, Tyreek Hill's a stud, but and he's probably the best, pass threat or receiving threat on that team. But Kelce's either 1 or 2 for tight ends in the league, and he's been there for 5-6 years now. I mean, he's been a staple of that offense for a long time, even before Mahomes was there. He seems like just a great guy to have on your team, and he's always healthy and he's consistent and he's deserving of any money he gets, really, to be quite honest. And I mean, the Chiefs are only going to have so much money to go around with Mahomes getting the big deal, and they gave the D tackle a lot of money. But now you got the D tackle, you got Mahomes, and you got Kelce. If you can lock up Tyreek Hill now, you'll have 4 core guys, 3 core guys on offense, and it might be a little hard in 2 or 3 years to fill out the rest of the team with some of the big contracts on the team. But you got Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, my God, you barely need an offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be good enough to be competitive for a long, long time. So I love the deal. I really do. And that's going to bring Kelce through the rest of his productive years as an NFL player. So he's probably going to end as a Chief, I would imagine, too. So
I would imagine. It's kind of funny. One of those things, everybody always says that, you give out a ton of money to one player like Patrick Mahomes. I hear this all the time. Anytime you give out a lot of money to one player, everyone's always like, well, there goes the team. They're not going to be able to sign or give out money to anyone else. And I always tell people, I say these owners are billionaires, millionaires, billionaires, okay? They have money to spend. Yeah. Money is not an issue for them. If they want to pay a guy, they will pay a guy. Now, are there some owners that are better off than others when it comes to the finances? Well, of course. That's just how it is. But I don't like when people use the excuse, well, they gave out all this money, now they're not going to be able to sign anyone else. No, you can sign other people. They have the money. If they want to spend it, they'll spend it.
Now, I will say, in football, you do have a salary cap against you.
Right.
But, whereas like baseball, that would be a terrible argument. There's literally not a salary cap. You can sign whoever the heck you want as long as you're willing to do it. In football, you do have a salary cap to work around. But, I mean, it's not like they're going to have to give everybody else $1 million because Mahomes is getting a bunch. No, I mean, you have more money than that to work with. Yes, it's going to be hard to fill some holes. But, I mean, you have enough money to pay decent. I mean, you have enough money with that salary. With the salary cap, you still have enough money to give
3-4 players, a good chunk of change. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be all right.
And especially a guy with the career that Travis Kelce has had. I mean, they were going to find a way to give him money. I mean, that was never.
Oh yeah, he's going to go down as one of the top tight ends that ever plays. So
absolutely. So moving on from one tight end to another tight end, George Kittle also gets an extension, 5-year, $75 million extension. Obviously, again, with Kelce, Kelce and Kittle are 1 and 2 when it comes to tight ends. Now, which one is 1 and which one is 2? There's no, I don't think there's really one right answer. You can't go wrong with either of them. Yeah. But Kittle, 5 years, $75 million extension. This guy has really broken onto the scene the last couple of years, especially last year. A ginormous part of that successful 49ers offense, a huge reason why they were in the Super Bowl. Obviously didn't end up winning it, but a huge reason why they were there in the first place. 5 years, 75. You like this for San Francisco? I mean, I can't imagine.
This is like an A plus signing.
Yeah,
I'd give $15 million a year for 5 years to Kittle any day. I'd give it to him 8 days a week.
Wow.
I mean, this Kittle is, like I said, between Kittle and Kelce, and maybe we can get into it, who you think the best one is. I mean, it's up for debate. I think there's a good chance I think there's a better chance Kelce leads the league in receiving and yards than Kittle, like for tight ends. But I think Kittle does the other things better. And Kittle did lead. I think Kittle has the most receiving yards of anybody, wide receivers included, over the last 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. But I think Kittle does, he blocks really well. He just does everything really well. And not to mention, he's probably one of the most liked players in all of football from fans. The dude he's just so exciting to watch. He gets so pumped up. He's got the hairdo going around. I mean, you just cannot not like this guy. And he clearly helps that team win in multiple ways. And not to mention, he's young. Who's better, Kittle or Kelce? I don't know. But if I get to pick one right now to start my team, I'm taking Kittle. They're 1A and 1B, and Kittle's younger. And $15 million a year, I know it's a tight end, but let's be honest, a tight end like Kittle, Kelce, even Ertz, they're just as important as the number one wide receiver, if not more important, because they're blocking a lot. They're doing all sorts of things. I'd be willing to give Kittle more than that. I mean, that's a great deal.
It is very hard in this day and age. There is not a lot of great wide receivers. There's a lot of tight ends.
I was going to say, there's a lot of great wide receivers.
Not wide receivers. There's not a lot of great tight ends. There is a lot of great wide receivers.
So this is like wide receiver, this is the best there has ever been, frankly.
Right. Not a lot of great tight ends. Kelce, Kittle, definitely on top of that list. And then whoever else you want to throw on there, Ertz is pretty reliable guy for Philadelphia over there. And then after that, I don't know. I mean, there's none that out of those top 3. I think those are the 3 that I would want to have on my team. If I'm
not to mention, I think Kittle's perfect for the Niners too, because I mean, Kittle gets a lot of Kittle's yards per reception is pretty high, but it's because his yak is so unbelievably good. But Kittle's a nice tight ends in general. They're not going to get those 20, 25 plus yard catches before. They're not going to catch it 20 yards from the line of scrimmage much, right?
Right.
They're normally in between the chains kind of guys. And Jimmy Garoppolo, it's not that he can't, but he's not necessarily a long range guy. He's more of a just to keep the chains moving kind of quarterback. And a good tight end is what those guys love. And now he's going to have George Kittle for 5, assuming Garoppolo's there for 5 years now. He's going to have Kittle for all those years, and that's going to really help him out. And not to mention, he might not be young, but he's still not that experienced in terms of games played, and it's going to be really nice for him now to have Kittle for the next 5 years.
Yeah. Tight ends are an extremely valuable role on the team. If you can have a tight end that can kind of do a little bit of everything, much like Kittle can. And we're not saying Travis Kelce can't. He's capable of doing that stuff. Kittle, I think, is a little bit better when it comes to that regards with the blocking, the speed, the little stuff sometimes you don't see. We saw how much Tom Brady last season obviously made the playoffs, but it was not the same offense without Rob Gronkowski. That's for dang sure.
Nowadays, there's just not many good tight ends, like you mentioned. There just isn't. I mean, there's some teams. I mean, me and you, I think, know quite a bit of NFL players, and there's some teams I could probably barely even give you their tight end.
Yeah,
It's just the way it is nowadays. And if you notice, most of the teams in the playoffs have a good tight end. You know, Ertz made the playoffs. Kelsey made the playoffs. Kittle, obviously. Hooper missed the playoffs, but, you know, normally Gronk would make the playoffs. Witt would make the playoffs. And the teams who don't have a good tight end, they just, a lot of times they don't, you know. It's not like a good tight end. It's not like if you don't have a tight end, you're not going to make the playoffs. But if you look at the playoff teams, typically they have a good O-line, a good quarterback, and a good tight end on offense. You don't need a stud wide receiver. And you don't need a stud tight end. But if you have a good tight end, it definitely gives you an advantage over a lot of teams. It really does. They're very important.
Anyways, the tight end's getting paid, defensive tackle getting paid. We'll keep a close eye on those guys this season to see how they do, if they're worth the money. I'm sure Kittle and Kelsey will be for sure. Kenny Clark, who knows? We'll have to find out. But anyways, moving on to baseball, a couple of suspensions to talk about. The first one being Joe Kelly. His suspension did get reduced to 5 games from the 8 that it initially was at. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. Not a ginormous difference, but instead of 8, he's suspended 5. But whatever. Do you have any strong takes to say about this? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Just baseball backing off an initial suspension again, but
yeah, yeah. And then another one. Laureano from the A's suspended 5 games, and the Houston Astros hitting coach Centrone suspended 20 games for the altercation that the two teams had not too long ago. Essentially, Laureano was upset, I believe. Now, I can't remember if it was like the 3rd time he got hit in that game or if it was that series. Nonetheless,
I believe that 3rd time that series, I believe.
So nonetheless, he got plunked a few times during that series. He was not very happy about it. Obviously was saying some words to the pitcher, and the fact that it was the Houston Astros certainly doesn't help the case at all. Walking the first, and Centrone was supposedly started barking at Laureano. Supposedly, he said something about Laureano's mother, which I don't know if that is true or not. That is what Laureano said. Now, we know in the past sometimes players will say stuff to make it sound like they're in the right for what they did. I'm not saying he is wrong. I don't have reason to think that he is wrong. But nonetheless, he charged at him. The funniest part to me that I thought what was about this was that Centrone was the one that was talking to Laureano. And then when Laureano actually charged him, immediately 3 players got in front of the coach and like they didn't even touch each other. So I thought that was kind of funny. Like, well, if you're gonna start talking crap, hopefully you're able to back it up and not have your guys, go in front of you and do that. But whatever. And the fact that it came from a coach too certainly is not the best look for that as well. But what do you think about this?
I believe Centrone got suspended, 20 games?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's literally a third of the season this year. I mean, he's only a bench coach anyway, so to me it's like, well, whatever. But, I mean, probably a little steep, but, I mean, I think the reason is, like I said, he's not that valuable, and they probably want to just send a message, and they're just going to do it to this guy, I highly doubt if this were a head coach or the manager, I highly doubt they would have gave him 20 games, but they did. And then Laureano got, 5?
Yep.
I mean, at the end of the day, whether you think they're throwing it in your attention or not, it's never okay to charge a guy, and he did. So, I mean, you got to be reprimanded in some way. I mean, 5 games, is it too much? Is it not enough? I don't know. But, I mean, clearly something had to happen, especially considering this is the Astros, and say what you want about them, but you can't just keep having brawls in Astros games regardless of what people feel about them. So you got to do something. So they had to suspend him one way or another. So, I mean, I guess I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I don't. Obviously, I agree with you. Regardless of what's said, you can't charge the guy now. If it was something as personal as that, where he said something about Laureano's mother, okay. I mean, I could see that being a little more justified then, for sure. Um, but he did charge him. You got to give him some games. I think if this was a 162 game season, I don't think, and that's what makes it tough to tell. Is that too much? Is it not enough? If he got suspended 5 games in a 162 game season, well, I mean, that's not really a whole lot. That's probably 5 scheduled days off he would have had anyway.
By the way, I don't think they've lost a game since he got suspended anyways, so.
Well, I'm not very happy. This guy's my fantasy baseball team.
They're like-
in a very close
They're
matchup
like
today. And
12-2 in August, or 13-2 or something like that. By the way, I don't need to brag, but I predicted the A's in the World Series. I was high on the A's this year.
Yeah.
My
You were.
AL predictions right now are looking pretty solid. Besides
NL
the Red
screwing
Sox,
you
I
up a
thought
little
they'd be
bit.
around 500, and they're like the worst team in baseball. They're
They're bad. They're bad. They are very bad. Again,
and by the way, the Angels suck. I told you. I keep telling people the Angels are not going to be good. And I'm always right. The Angels are not a good baseball team.
I thought they would be a little more competitive this year with
cannot
some of the
hit.
additions they've had. I thought their hitting could out-hit their problems.
See,
Obviously, I was not.
In baseball, it does not matter how good your 1 through 5 hitters are. If your 6 through 9 can't hit,
You need hitting.
You need a balance. You need hitting 1 through 9.
Yeah.
Like you can have one weak spot, but if your 5 through 9 cannot hit, it does not matter how, or your 6 through 9, it does not matter how good the top end of your lineup is if the back end cannot do diddly squat. That's why the Indians don't do that well. The Indians are good because their starting pitching is unbelievable.
It's good.
But if Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor, and Carlos Santana do not have a good day, they will not win. You need 1 through 9, and the Angels don't have that, and they don't have pitching either. So I just saying.
At the New York Mets, who has Jacob deGrom and essentially no offense.
Exactly.
So,
but they'll have offense when Rick Porcello pitches, but then Jacob deGrom pitches.
Steven Matz.
We're gonna score maybe 1 run tonight, Jake.
Yeah, good luck. Why don't you get us our 9 with 14 strikeouts?
Jacob deGrom from State Farm needs a little insurance.
Yeah, he needs a lot of insurance. Anyways, baseball again. That was not a whole lot going on. Not a whole lot has changed standings wise. We know the teams that are bad are pretty bad. The teams that are good are pretty good. That's essentially all we know right now.
See, it's crazy. The Twins were 10-2, and I was literally thinking they're second or third best team in baseball. And now, it's weird. They have the second best run differential in baseball. They have the 5th best record, and I mean they're pretty good record overall. But their batting average, they've scored quite a bit of runs, but their batting average as a team is pitiful. They're 2-4 against the Kansas City Royals, who are awful. And
hey, that's baseball. Any team can win on any given night.
I just don't get it. If you just told me through 21 games, or no, 22, they'd be 14-8 or whatever they are, I'd be like, all right, that sounds pretty good. But the way they play lately, it's just baffling to me, and I don't know. But I definitely think. I thought after about 2 weeks, I thought, all right, it's Twins and Yankees. But no, the A's are very, very good. And I think it's between the A's, Yankees, and Dodgers this year.
Well, no love for the Rockies?
I mean, I think they'll definitely make the playoffs, but they're starting to slide already. But
man, the bullpen has been starting to show its true form.
Yeah, but their starting pitching's been pretty solid. By the way, I have one fantasy team, one that I got auto drafted, so my team's terrible. But I got Senzatella, Marquez, and what's the other one? Freeland. I got 3 Rocky stars on my team. So, yeah.
Anyway, so we'll move on to the NBA. Pelicans let go of head coach Alvin Gentry. I don't know if it's too soon or not. It's tough to tell.
How many years was he there?
I think he was only there for the couple years because he wasn't there for very long. Never really had a great team. This year was probably the best team that he had. Obviously, he made the bubble qualifying playoff thing. but so did, pretty much the entire Western Conference minus
Except for the
team.
Wolves and the Warriors.
Yeah, except for the Wolves and Warriors. So whatever. I like Alvin Gentry. I think he's a good coach. He's kind of always been he might get you to the playoffs, but after that, you never know. I mean, I don't know if he's still head coach material. I think he does deserve to coach somewhere, whether it's a head coach, assistant coach position. But I don't know. Do you like Alvin Gentry?
I mean, he's a very, very well-respected guy throughout the NBA. He's going to get an assistant job or some sort of a job after this, I would assume, as long as he wants one. I mean, it's honestly kind of hard to tell how good a coach is in the NBA. There's your exceptions. Like, I think Budenholzer, Popovich, Spoelstra are clearly really good coaches. Brad Stevens. The way Nick Nurse is doing in Toronto, I'd say he's a pretty solid coach. But when you get these bad teams in the NBA, or like the Pelicans, I mean, I don't know if they're a bad team, but they're not a good team. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's any coaches really who could bring those teams to the playoff. It's like NBA. It's really hard for a coach to just come in and immediately make a team. Even in a league where 16 teams make it, it's really hard for a coach to come into some of these teams and just make them a playoff team. It just is. In the NBA, the better team's the worst team in baseball can beat the best team on any given day. In basketball, it just doesn't happen very often because it's a star-driven league, and unless you have an exceptionally good coach, I truly don't think it matters that much unless you have one of those exceptionally good ones. And I mean, I don't think Alvin Gentry did a bad job. It's just, did he do enough? I mean, apparently not in their liking, but I don't know if there's anybody who's going to bring that Pelicans team much further, at least not this year.
Well, especially after losing a guy like Anthony Davis, that's hard to rebound from. Now, granted, Brandon Ingram did play pretty well. I wondered if they had a full season of Zion, if that would have made a bigger impact too. I don't know.
A lot of times, it seems like with younger teams, you don't want to get rid of coaches so soon because you want these young guys to be able to grow under one coach and learn under them. That's why I'm kind of surprised they fired him, especially considering Brandon Ingram had such a good year this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I'd want to bring in a new coach with a bunch of these young players, next year. So I don't know if I would have fired him, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. And in NHL, before we get into our predictions,
the Bulls coach got fired too, but.
Okay. I actually did not see that.
That happened, I think, yesterday.
Boylan, okay.
But I mean, the Bulls are terrible.
The Bulls are bad.
There's not much argument there. They're awful.
Okay. Well, that nice quick segment on that one. Glad we're in agreement there. Tuukka Rask from the Boston Bruins opts out of the season. It's one of those things where you can't. At the end of the day, with COVID going on, regardless of how much of a big deal you think it is or is not, if a guy wants to stay out to keep his family healthy, keep himself healthy, you got to respect that, and you gotta respect his decision there. Huge loss though for the Bruins. Now, obviously, they have had other help this season. They have played pretty well sometimes without him, but Tuukka Rask is a very big name, and him not being the main netminder for the Boston Bruins, are you thinking that this team might not make it as far as you thought?
I had them winning it all. Without him, I think it's unlikely. They did win 3-1 the other day without him, but if I remember correctly, I picked him for the Vezina Trophy, did I not?
I'd have to look. You probably did.
I believe I did. Because, I mean, it was a kind of a toss-up for me, but I'm pretty sure I went with Tuukka. And like you said, if a guy wants to sit out for COVID, then fine. But and I'm not going to get all upset about it just because, at the end of the day, if it's truly for COVID and he wants to keep his family safe, then by all means. But you already played 2 games in the bubble, and you literally did this right before Game 3. I just question the timing.
Yeah.
In the middle of a series, I mean, I guess if you have a change of heart, you have a change of heart. But the timing
is not the best. I agree with that.
I mean, that would frustrate a lot. Not to mention, just the way it is. Not that it should matter, but Tuukka Rask is one of the best goalies in the league, and it's really putting a damper on his team with him not being there. So, I mean, it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. I guess I just say I question the timing of it is all.
Yeah. So you want to get into some predictions? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we're going to start NHL playoff predictions. Now, like I said at the top of the show, we did these brackets before the playoffs started. So although we are giving you our predictions now after the playoffs have started, we both did our brackets before it started. So I guess we'll just get right into it here. The matchups were, starting in the Western Conference, number 1 Vegas against number 8 Chicago, number 2 Colorado versus number 7 Arizona, number 3 Dallas versus number 6 Calgary, and number 4 St. Louis against 5 Vancouver. And then going in the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia 1, Montreal 8, Tampa 2, Columbus 7, Washington 3, Islanders with a 6 seed, and then Boston was the 4 seed, Carolina was the 5 seed.
Dude, the fact that Montreal is in the playoffs is pathetic.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
They are pretty bad, but essentially with how the NHL did the playoffs was that after the first round, they were going to be changing the seeding. So essentially the best team that was left of the highest seed would essentially be the number 1 seed. So if, Colorado and Vegas both lost their series and Dallas won, then Dallas would move up to technically be the top seed available, and then they would be then playing the worst team available seeding wise.
And I actually did not realize that when I did my brackets.
Okay.
Mine's a little screwed up, but
okay.
I still have. I mean,
it's
my
confusing.
first round's still obviously the way it is. So
yeah. But anyway, so we'll just get right into it here. We'll start with Vegas and Chicago. Who did you have winning and how many games?
I had Vegas in 7.
Oh wow!
The way it looks, I just felt Chicago, although they have not been good this year, they kind of came on hot, and they scored a lot of goals against Edmonton in the play-in series. But I mean, so I just thought they obviously have experience. They still got Patrick Kane, who's been around and won how many cups. So I thought they'd make it a series, but the way it looks now is they won't. But I had Vegas in 7.
Yeah. I had Vegas in 5. Chicago was not a very good team. Obviously, they have a lot of guys that have a lot of playoff success. Taves, Kane, Corey Crawford. I'm not the biggest Corey Crawford fan, but the guy's had success. You got to give it to him. I had Vegas in 5. We'll have to see how that turns out. I don't think it's going to be a close series, but you never know. Been wrong before. So probably wrong again. I've never been wrong. Colorado, Arizona. Who did you have in this one?
Got Arizona. I'm just kidding. I had Colorado in 6.
Okay.
I mean, they're clearly the better team. So, I mean,
yeah.
I just honestly just went with a better team right here. I mean, I think Arizona can hang with them, so I made it 6, but.
I did Colorado in 5. I think, and the way it looks, it certainly could go that way. The series is 2-1 right now with the Avs on top, so we'll have to see how that goes. But I do have Colorado in 5. They're one of the deepest teams, if not the deepest team in hockey. They have a lot of guys that can do a lot of great things. But Arizona has some sneaky talented guys on their side. So who knows? Maybe they'll pull out a win or two. Dallas and Calgary.
I had Calgary in 7.
Yeah.
And honestly, I have Calgary in the Western Conference Finals. Don't ask me why, because my reasoning is simply this. I don't know why. I'm just high on Calgary. It's just, yeah. I just got a feeling.
They've got some good guys. They've got some good guys on that side.
I just got a feeling with Calgary, but I have Calgary over Dallas in 7.
Sometimes you just got to go with your gut. You got to go with your gut sometimes. I had Dallas in 6. They have some pretty solid goal scorers on their side, with Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn being two of the top goal scorers in the league every year, it seems like. Calgary is going to have another first-round exit like they did last season to my Avalanche. But Dallas is going to win in 6.
Well, it's tied
and
2-2 right now. Stars got the win in overtime today, so.
who knows? St. Louis and Vancouver.
I have, what did I have? I had St. Louis in 5. I mean, they're they're really the 1 seed this year in the West. I mean, it didn't end up that way, but they had the most points in the West. I mean, they're clearly a really good team. Vancouver's come on strong late. They took care of business against the Wild, but they're pretty young, and St. Louis is clearly better, I think. So I have St. Louis in 5.
I have St. Louis in 6. I don't think they're ready to give up their Stanley Cup victory quite yet.
We'll see. I already got my prediction wrong because Vancouver's currently up 2-0 on that series.
Well, maybe they'll turn it around. Who knows? St. Louis, I have them winning in 6.
I'm fine to be right if that means St. Louis Blues losing.
We'll move over to the Eastern Conference now. Number 1, Philadelphia going up against number 8, Montreal. I guess I'll start on this one. I have Philadelphia winning in 5. Now, I'm going to give Montreal the benefit of the doubt. I'll give them 1 win in that series. Although I don't think they're a very good team. Philadelphia, I think, is by far the better team, and that's my thought process behind it there. Yeah. That's why I gave them 1 in 5.
This is probably the most unevenly balanced matchup in the entire first round. I went with 5 instead of 4, which turns out Montreal has won a game, so probably good I did that. But I mean, Philadelphia should run right through these guys. They should. So I had them at 5, but we'll see. You never know in hockey.
Never know. Tampa and Columbus. I actually had Columbus winning in 6. The reason I did this was because Tampa is always, every single year, one of the best teams in hockey, and they always find a way to lose in the playoffs. Every single year. They always find a way to lose.
Just like the Capitals, with the exception of 2 years ago when they beat Vegas.
Yep.
But I almost picked Tampa Bay to make the Stanley Cup Finals this year. I went with Boston, but I almost picked Tampa just because I feel like last year was the year where they almost set the record for points, right? And then they got swept in the first round, correct? I thought, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd be like the Virginia Cavaliers. You lose to 16 UMBC, and then you go win it the next year. I thought maybe finally this is the year. They're just going to get pissed and say this is the year. And I didn't quite have them going all the way, but I had them with success. So I had them beating Columbus, who's a good team. I had them beating Columbus in 5. They're currently up 2-1, so we'll see. But I mean, Columbus is no slouch. They're not great. I think they got a little lucky. They had 15 overtime losses, and you know how I feel about hockey. I still am not a huge fan of 15 points for losing.
I agree 100%. Yep.
But I mean, it clearly shows they hang around and they got some good players. And over the years, they've had some postseason. I mean, they've had some success, at least in the first round, if I remember correctly. So
yeah.
I mean, we'll see. But I do think Tampa is going to have some success this year. And I hope they do. I really hope they do.
Tampa is probably my second team. They're probably my Eastern Conference team. Obviously, the Avalanche are my number 1 by far. I've always liked Tampa Bay. A big Steven Stamkos fan. I've always liked them.
And honestly, at this point, it's like you hate to see it. Like the Capitals every year were so good, and they'd always lose, and they finally got one. And Ovi got one. It'd be nice for Lightning and Stamkos to get one too. But we'll see.
Capitals and Islanders. Well, I had the Capitals winning in 6. The way this series is going, they're going to need to win in 7 if they want to get past the first round.
Now, if there's a biased pick in my whole thing, it's this one. The Wild are my team because I'm a Minnesota boy, but honestly, I'm 50-50 Wild and Capitals, if not more Capitals. I've always loved the Caps because I love me some Alexander Ovechkin. So this is probably a little biased because, like the Lightning, the Capitals always struggle in the playoffs with the exception of that 1 year. And the Islanders are not a slouch. So I picked Washington to win, but I had a lot of doubts about it, and I feel like it was more so my heart than my mind talking, so I put it Washington in 7. But
okay.
Islanders are currently up 3-0. So
Well,
I think my head was clearly smarter than my heart, and I should have gone with it.
Well, you never know. You never know. You never know what could happen.
I mean, it's been done before.
It
I
has.
think it was just done within the last 3 years, correct?
Yep.
Didn't the team just come back from down 3-0?
Yep.
So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, you got Alexander Ovechkin. You got some good guys over there, but it's not looking good.
And then we have the Boston Bruins going up against the Carolina Hurricanes. I had Boston in 5. Even with their loss of Tuukka Rask, I still feel confident with that. Obviously, I can't change it because it's in writing, but Boston in 5 is what I had for that one.
I think there's no doubt who the best team in hockey was this year. That's the Bruins. I don't think there's any question. That's why I picked them to win it all. Without Tuukka, I'm not sure they will anymore. But I do think they're still going to go far. It's the only series in the first round I picked a sweep. I picked Boston in 4. I'll be honest, I did not realize Carolina was as good as they are. I mean, they had 81 points. They are a good team, and they've already won 1. So clearly 4 will not be correct, but I do think they'll win the series. But I'm very high. I was very high on Boston. Like I said, I think there's no doubt who the best team in hockey was this year. It was clearly Boston, in my opinion. Without Tuukka, it's going to be hard, but I do think they're definitely still one of the teams to beat. Especially with Marchand just balling out right now this year.
Now we will be moving on to the Western Conference semifinals. Now, obviously you did kind of, I didn't understand the seeding at first either until about, right before the playoffs started. It took me a little bit to figure out how that worked.
I didn't even read up on it. I didn't even realize they were doing that. So I just figured it was
weird.
Insane.
Really weird. Anyways, though.
Well, I mean, football's always done that, though. After the first round, they don't reseed, but rather than just like the one automatically playing the winner of this game, like NCAA tournament would be, the one plays the worst remaining seed. So football kind of does that too. They don't actually reseed, but they make sure the best seed plays the worst seed remaining. So it's kind of like it's kind of like that. But
so I had then Vegas being the top seed available would be going up against St. Louis. This is going to be a tough series. I could see St. Louis coming out on top, but I did not pick them. I had Vegas winning in 6. I think they're just one of the best teams in NHL, and it's obviously been proven that since day one when they became a team a few years ago. Yeah. But I have Vegas winning in 6.
I had Colorado over Vegas because with the way I had thought it was constructed, I had Colorado over Vegas in 5 because I'm pretty high in Colorado. But if we go Vegas and St. Louis, I think that would be a 7-game series.
I could see it.
And honestly, I have no idea who I'd pick. I think I would lean St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I'm not sure. I think if that happens, I think it will go 7 games.
And then Colorado versus Dallas is what I had. I had Colorado winning in 5. Again, I one of the better teams in NHL. Goaltending scares me a little bit, but I still have Colorado winning that series, going up against Vegas in the Western Conference Finals.
So I had Calgary and St. Louis as my other one. Like I said, I had it kind of screwed up.
Yep.
And I had Calgary over St. Louis in 6. But if we do Colorado and who'd you say? Dallas?
Dallas, yeah.
I mean, Dallas can score with the best of them, but I just don't think they quite have the defense to stop Colorado, whereas Colorado has it. And I think Colorado would win in probably 5 or 6. I do think Colorado's the team to beat in the West. St. Louis had more points than them, I believe. But in hockey, let's be honest, basketball is a star-driven league. But hockey, it's hard to win a Stanley Cup without stars. Penguins had Crosby, Blackhawks had Kane, not to mention, Malkin in there, Kane's at Blackhawks had Taves and Hossa and all those guys. Capitals had Ovechkin. it's very hard to win a cup without,
Mm-hmm.
studs on your team.
Yeah.
Now, I know, like, in this series, Jamie Benn, he's a good scorer, Sagan. But, I mean, let's be honest. Colorado's probably, in my opinion, I think Colorado's the best set up for success in the West. They have a decent goalie. They're clearly one of the best teams. And then you have, besides Edmonton, they have the best, star players. I mean, you have Nathan McKinnon, who's one of the best players in all of hockey. Edmonton's got, Draisaitl and McDavid, but they just didn't have enough after that.
Mm-hmm.
You need those elite players in hockey to win a cup, or it's very hard to without them. And that's what Colorado has, along with their already good team who's been solid all year. So I think Colorado's a team to beat in the West. So I'd have them beating anybody in this series.
And we move on to the Eastern Conference. So I had Philadelphia, Columbus playing each other. I actually have Columbus kind of being the Cinderella team here, beating Philadelphia in 7. So I have Columbus going to the Eastern Conference semifinals for that. Or, sorry, the Eastern Conference, semifinals, or finals. Yeah.
If that happens, I would take Philly. But I had Tampa playing Philly, and I had Tampa in 5, which seems kind of crazy. Philly's pretty good, but like I said, I'm kind of high on Tampa.
Yeah.
But so if it's Tampa and Philly, I'd have Philly. But if it's Philly and Columbus, I would have Philly in probably 6.
Okay. Washington and Boston is the next team that they had. I had Washington, I had Boston winning in 6, facing off against Columbus in the Eastern Conference Finals. I still am fairly confident about this, even with the loss of Tuukka Rask. But, anyways, I have Boston winning that one.
I had Boston over Washington as well in 5 games.
Yeah.
I am very, very high on Boston. I'm still high on them without Tuukka, but I was really high on them. I have Boston winning in 4 and 5, and then in 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I have Boston losing 1 game in the first 2 series. So.
And then the conference finals. So the Western Conference, I had the Knights versus the Avs. I have the Avs winning in 6. Going to the Stanley Cup Finals, I have Boston beating Columbus in 5. Every once in a while, a team runs into a buzzsaw. I think Columbus will run into that buzzsaw with the Boston Bruins, and Boston will be in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Avs.
I have Colorado over Calgary in 6. Calgary is kind of my surprise team in the West. Like I said, I think Colorado is the team to beat, though. I have Colorado over Calgary in 6, and I have Boston over Tampa Bay in 7. I think if this happens, it is going to be one heck of a series.
Yeah.
I think that will be one of the best non-Stanley Cup series we've had in a long time if it happens, and I have Boston in 7. So then I have Boston, Colorado in my cup.
So we both have Boston, Colorado. You had Boston winning in how many games?
5 games, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Which I know seems kind of crazy, but I'm about as high on Boston as one could possibly be. I think they're far and away the best team in hockey this year. I really do. Without Tuukka, I'm just not sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big hit. So I don't know, and I know Tuukka I have Boston 5. Without Tuukka, you'd probably think I should still have them, maybe in just 6 or 7. But I don't know. I'm really doubting that now. But I clearly, like I said, I think Boston was far and away better than anybody this year, and that's why I'm confident enough to even take them in 5 in the Cup. Without Tuukka, we'll see. But I think I'm leaning Boston over Colorado right now. But I think it's going to be much closer now with the loss of Tuukka.
I have Colorado beating Boston in 6. I think Colorado truly is one of, if not the deepest team in all of the NHL playoffs as far as our lines go. The only thing that could ruin us is the goaltending situation a little bit. Grubauer is very inconsistent in that. He has games where he plays well, but he has games where he does not do well at all. So I guess it depends on which one we're getting. If not, we throw in Pavel Francouz who's pretty solid as well too in that this season when he's come into play. So I think the Avs will probably be doing a 2-goalie tandem there. I'm excited. I think the Avs truly do have a legit shot at winning it all. I'm not just saying that because I am an Avs fan. I think we are one of the best teams in hockey. Obviously, the number 2 seed for a reason. Now we have to win the number 2 seed, but
I do think. I mean, if I had power rankings coming into the playoffs, I would probably go Boston, Tampa Bay, Colorado. I mean, I think so. And Colorado at 92 points, as did Tampa. St. Louis at 94, but they did also play one more game than Colorado. So I do think Colorado's the best team in the West. I think Boston's the best team in the East. I think I'd maybe take Tampa over Colorado, but that's about it. Besides Boston, so we'll see. I think it would be one if it's Colorado versus Tampa or Boston. I think it's going to be one heck of a cup.
I'm looking forward to it. I really hope it does come down to that. I mean, I just want to see the Avs in the finals. I don't really care who they're playing. I think if they play Boston, now with Tuukka Rask not being in that, I think that helps our chances that much more.
Mm-hmm. And also, not that I'm disappointed necessarily that Pittsburgh is eliminated because, I mean, Pittsburgh's always there, and I've never really been a Pittsburgh fan. But the fact that they lost 3-1 to the Montreal Canadiens, who for most of the season have honestly been trash and shouldn't have even been in the bubble, honestly kind of disappoints me that the Penguins team, which is always fun to watch because they're just so experienced, so many good guys, so many elite hockey players, and now we have to watch the Montreal Canadiens instead. It's kind of disappointing, to be honest.
It is, but you got to win the games that are put in front of you. It's unfortunately how it goes. We'll have to see.
And I wish Edmonton would have made it too, but oh well. Because Connor McDavid had, I think, 6 goals in 4 games, and Draisaitl had 3 or 4, and they still lost in 4.
Yep.
Like, my goodness. McDavid had like 10 points.
Yeah, I agree.
And they lost in 4 games.
Oh man, just yeah.
Wasting elite talent over there.
Yeah, I agree.
I picked them to win the finals, I think, like a year or 2 ago, and they just sucked.
As a lot of Edmonton teams have in the past. So we can now move on.
That's the Gretzky ones.
Well, true. NBA playoff prediction time now. We'll start. I'll give you the seedings matchups here for the first round. Lakers against Portland, 1-8. Number 4 Rockets versus number 5 Thunder. Number 3 Nuggets versus number 6 Jazz. Number 2 Clippers versus number 7 Mavericks. Moving to the Eastern Conference, number 1 Bucks versus number 8 Magic. Number 4 Pacers versus number 5 Heat. Number 3 Celtics versus number 6 76ers. Number 2 Raptors versus number 7 Nets. We'll start in the Western Conference, Nick. Lakers, Trailblazers, who you got and how many games?
Now, obviously, like I seen an article or something like that before where it's like Blazers not the typical 8 seed. Now, obviously they aren't. I think all year they were down they were out of the playoffs pretty much the entire season, and sometimes by like 4 or 5 games. But I think at least me pretty much knew the whole time they were probably going to make it. They were just too good of a team not to. They made the Western Conference Finals last year. Damian Lillard, I think, is still possibly the most underrated player in basketball. He's probably the best point guard besides Curry when Curry's healthy, and you need to put some respect on his name. And they're playing really, really good right now. With that being said, they're still an 8 seed, and the Lakers have been the best team in basketball besides the Bucks all year. And the Lakers they're going to take care of business. Maybe, just maybe, it goes 6, maybe. But I think the Lakers probably get the job done in 5.
I also had Lakers over Portland.
If not 4. Sorry to interrupt, but honestly,
yeah.
I know, obviously I'm a LeBron fan, but LeBron is almost unbeatable in the first round. He literally, I don't know if he's ever had a first round series go to 6 since his like 4th year in the league, and he almost always gets it done in 4, sometimes 5. So
I had Lakers winning in 6. I wanted to do 5, but is Portland a good team? I mean, yeah, they made the playoffs. Lillard is hot. McCollum is hot. Nurkic is playing well. But having said that, going up against a team that has, I think this is what, people are saying, yeah, okay, huge upset. Portland's hot. This team's hot right now. And they are. Don't get me wrong. They're playing good basketball. But are people forgetting, who LeBron James and not only him, but Anthony Davis are? Like, did they forget how good those players are?
It's not happening. Like, I realized the Lakers maybe didn't do that great in the bubble, but they pretty much knew they were going to get the 1 seed the whole time. They had literally nothing to play for. Pretty much the only thing was to get the better record over Milwaukee, but that really doesn't matter anymore anyways, because there's not even there's really no home court. You're literally everybody's home court is the same. There's no fans, so it really didn't matter. So I mean, to be honest, you can't really use any of the 8 games the Lakers played hardly to judge. They're going to be good. They've been clearly the best team in the West all year, without a question. And Portland, at the end of the day, although they're playing really good, they're still an 8 seed. I mean, yes, there's a better chance of an 8 seed winning this than maybe other years, but it's not going to happen. And by the way, I seen a thing on Twitter that said, like, can we kick the Grizzlies out so it can be the Suns and Blazers in the playing game? And my God, I wish it could have been. Like, I like the Grizzlies, I always have.
Yeah.
But now, granted, Phoenix, I mean, you can just say, well, I should have done better in the beginning, which is true. But they went 8-0 in the bubble. They literally, I told Jordan, like, when the bubble pretty much started, the Suns literally had like a 0.02% chance of making it.
Yeah.
0.02. They went 8-0, and they missed out on they didn't even, like, they weren't even a half game behind. It was just like tiebreakers made it so they missed out. And I think everybody wanted to see Suns and Blazers, including me, and it really sucks that we couldn't.
Yeah.
And also, the Blazers are probably my second favorite team in the NBA, so it really sucks that they have to play the Lakers, number one. I mean, the only team I would want to see win other than the Blazers is the Lakers, and they had to play each other the first round. It sucks. I wish Portland was the 7 and could give Clippers all they could handle. But
I got no problem seeing Portland lose in the first round. They're one of the I don't know. I'm not going to say it.
I love me some Dame Lillard, and CJ McCollum's always been like
great players.
One on 2K. He's an absolute stud on 2K games. So I love me some Portland Trailblazers. So I really wish they didn't have to play LA right away, but that's what happens when you get the 8 seed.
Number 4 Rockets versus number 5 Oklahoma City Thunder. Who do you got and how many?
I know Westbrook's unhealthy, but let's be honest. James Harden, say what you want about him. And I know he hasn't been that great in the playoffs, but there's no way he's losing to the Thunder in the first round. The Thunder have had an outstanding year. They totally shocked me. But come on, they're not beating James Harden in the playoffs. It's not happening.
I don't think they are either.
It's probably going to go 6, but the Rockets are winning.
I had the Rockets winning in 6. I think the Thunder are gonna steal a couple games that maybe they didn't look like they should be when the game first started. So I'm going to give them that. But I do have the Rockets winning in 6. It's going to be hard to lose that series for them. Not a knock on the Thunder. They overachieved a lot. Billy Donovan's a great coach. Chris Paul's a great player. And then, huge reason because of that. But I do have Rockets winning in 6.
And by the way, I might not have a single upset in terms of seeds in this whole playoff, but that's because they hardly ever happen in the NBA. It's just the way it is. The higher seed almost always wins the NBA. That's the way it is. So, I mean, and the Rockets are the higher seed. I think the 4, 5, and 6 all have the same exact record, I think. But,
something like that. But
besides the Clippers and the Lakers, I think the Rockets are the team to beat just because James Harden is that good. I truly think so.
The Nuggets, number 3 Nuggets, number 6 Jazz. Who do you have in this one?
Dude, the Nuggets, this is a very intriguing series because the Nuggets and Jazz are like the same exact team. Like, they don't necessarily have a superstar. I mean, I know Jokic is probably close, but I wouldn't necessarily call him a superstar. They're kind of like the Raptors of the West, these two teams. The Raptors, besides last year when they had Kawhi, are always really, really good without a true superstar because they're just the definition of a very good team. They're like the Spurs, what the Spurs always were. I know the Spurs have Tim Duncan, but the Spurs, I think, always were better than what they looked like on paper, as the Raptors have been for the last 5 or 6 years. And now the Nuggets and Jazz, I think, are like almost identical teams. I do think the Nuggets are slightly better, though. Actually, I think they're definitely better. So I think the Nuggets will beat the Jazz. But I think it's going to be a very intriguing series just because these teams are very similar. They play the same way. They're both, they're both right next to each other geographically. They're both good defensive teams. They both have very good home court advantages when it's actually
Matters.
in Denver, in Utah, and
Yeah.
with fans. But so I think it could go 7. I think this probably has the best chance of going 7 of any series. But I honestly don't know whether I'm going to go 6 or 7. I'm going to pick Denver. I feel like Denver in 6, but I'm going to say 7 just because Utah's a fighter, and these teams are so close. I'm going to say Denver in 7, but we'll see.
I have Denver winning in 6. Now, 2 players for the Utah Jazz will probably not be playing in the series. I believe Bogdanovich, I want to say, was one of them. Mike Conley is for sure the other one, so he will probably not be playing at all this series. So that definitely helps the Nuggets case a bunch. But the Jazz are just a team that sometimes they just give us fits. For whatever reason, they just give us fits. I'm not worried enough to the point where I think we'll lose the series. I think the Nuggets will win in 6, but it'll be close. It'll be a fun matchup to watch, that's for sure. Probably give me about 15 heart attacks in the process. Number 2 Clippers versus number 7 Mavs. Who do you have in this one?
I mean, I have the Clippers. I think the Clippers are the team to beat in the West, as much as it pains me to say that. But the Mavericks are about the last of the 7 seeds of the last 2 decades. I think the Mavericks are probably the last one I'd want to play. Luka Doncic in 3 years, I think, will be the best player in all of basketball. He is absolutely amazing. I love me some Luka Doncic. Honestly, I don't know what I'm going to do when LeBron leaves this league. I cheer for Minnesota and everything except for NBA. I just follow LeBron. And when he's gone, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't just become a Timberwolves fan because people will be like, really, dude, you bashed him for 2 decades. So maybe I'll just follow Luka because I love me some Luka Doncic, man. He's so good. And this team is possibly the best offensive team in all of basketball. They can put up 140 on you like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not want to play this team. It is not a good matchup to have as a 2 seed. With that being said, the Clippers are just too good. I think they'll win they might even win in 5. I just think the Clippers are that good. And Kawhi in playoff time, I mean, come on. You don't want to
it's
pick against
unreal.
him. But it might go 6. But with that being said, if there is going to be a shocker of an upset, it would be this one, just because I believe that much in Dallas. But I can't see Clippers losing in the first round.
I don't see them losing either. I also have the Clippers winning in 5. Luka Doncic's going to probably put up a hell of a fight. But
I think he's going to average
against
a triple
Kawhi
double.
Leonard, it's going to be tough.
I would.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be willing to put $20 on Luka averaging a triple double in the series.
I'd be with you on that. Eastern Conference. We got the Bucks against the Magic. No offense to the Magic, I have the Bucks sweeping. I don't see the Magic getting a game.
I mean, unless they do a little hocus pocus, but they ain't gonna win a game.
Pacers versus the Heat. Probably, my opinion, the most intriguing matchup of the entire first round. Just because I don't know if one has a clear advantage over the other.
Yeah.
With how hot Warren has been.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he's not the only guy on that team. They have other good players. I have the Heat winning in 7. I think Jimmy Butler's experience might help them, but I have the Heat winning in 7.
I take back what I say about Denver, Utah. I think this is the best chance for a series to go to 7, with Denver, Utah being second. I want to say I'm leaning Indiana just because I think they're better offensively and have more firepower. But at the same time, Miami is just such a good team. Eric Spoelstra is such a good coach.
He's a great coach.
And Jimmy Butler, say what you want about him. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the dude either. But he wins ball games. I mean, he does. Him and Chris Paul, I think, are very similar. I think, to be honest, they're both kind of dirty. I'm not huge fans of either of them, but they win ball games, and they're good players. And I think Jimmy Butler gives the Heat the edge in this one. And by the way, if this were true home games, Miami was one of the best home teams in all of basketball this year.
Yeah.
But it's not, obviously. So that'll even it out a little bit. But I'll lean Miami in 7. I'm kind of rooting for Indiana, though.
I would like to see Indiana win.
And I think they could win easily, too. But I'll lean Miami in 7.
We got Celtics 76ers. I have the Celtics winning in 5, if I'm being honest. I'm not the biggest Joel Embiid guy. Number one, he can't stay healthy. Number two, now Ben Simmons is out for the entire playoffs. I don't see this going well for the 76ers. I think the Celtics are a much better team. Kemba Walker, Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, that is a nice trio there for sure. So I have Celtics winning in 5.
I think the Celtics win in 5, if not 4. Here's why. If we're true home and away games, it'd probably be 6 or 7 because Philadelphia was the best home team of basketball this year. The best. Mm-hmm. They literally lost like 3 games at home. You know what they were on the road? Like, they were worse than the Timberwolves on the road, literally. That's how bad of a road team they were. They lost like 3 home games and like 25 away games. I don't know how that's even possible. But they were that much different. Well, they don't have a true home game at all. Nobody does now. So not that it's a true away game, but they're not at home, so that's already against them. And without Ben Simmons, they have no chance. I'm not saying Ben Simmons is like LeBron James, but let's be honest. Ben Simmons is clearly their second best player, and he's very important, and he's a point guard.
He'll help you win games.
So, I mean, they're pretty much toast. And I am an Embiid guy. I do think he's very good. And honestly, in the last 2 years, he's stayed pretty healthy. But he's not going to be enough. And Brad Stevens knows it's all on him now. He's probably going to do his best to shut him down. And although I'm not a huge Celtics fan, I love me some Kemba Walker. I have since UConn.
Party at Kemba, baby.
So I'd love to see him have some success. And I'm going Celtics in 5. It might be a sweep.
And then we have Raptors and Nets. I have the Raptors winning in 5. I'm going to give Brooklyn the benefit of the doubt. I think they kind of flew under the radar a little bit this year with Kevin Durant not playing at all, Kyrie Irving barely playing. I will give them a game in this series, but I think the Raptors are by far the better team. And they're going to win 5.
I'm not totally against it because at the end of the day, I want people to be honest. And I don't like the people who are like, you know, like, let's say a player on the Magic said, oh, we're going to win just because you play for Magic. It's like, dude, you can't even believe that, right? But Kevin Durant said he literally predicted Bucks and Clippers at the finals. I'm like, dude, 1, I think that's going to happen. And 2, I get that that's probably what you think. But come on, you play for the Brooklyn Nets who are currently in the playoffs. Can you not say Bucks over Clippers in the finals when your Nets are literally in the playoffs right now? Like, dude, come on. That's not cool, in my opinion. With that being said, no, obviously Brooklyn's not going to beat the Raptors, but I do think they're definitely going to win 1, maybe 2, because I like this Nets team. I love me some Spencer Dinwiddie, and Karis LeVert's really good
Karis
too.
LeVert's really good.
Dinwiddie's going to win them 1 game, if not LeVert. They're going to win at least 1, maybe 2, but the Raptors win. I mean.
Now we move on to the next round, Western Conference. Lakers, Rockets.
We have the same winners of all of them.
Yep. Lakers, Rockets. Who you got and how many?
It's going to go 6, I think. It's pretty hard to beat Harden in 4 or 5. And if the Rockets are on, I mean, if the Rockets are at their best for 4 games, they could beat anybody, you know. But I don't see the Lakers losing before. It's pretty hard for me to believe the Lakers are going to lose before the Western Conference Finals. So I'm taking Lakers in 6.
I have Lakers in 5. James Harden. Say the guy's a great scorer. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of his game is reliant on if he can get to the free throw line or not.
Yeah.
And I just think that in the playoffs, stardom certainly matters a lot. And you got Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I don't think Harden's going to be getting a lot of calls. Harden has not done enough to show me, in the playoffs that is, to show me that he's a finals guy, that he can get to the finals. Russell Westbrook also, I'm not the biggest fan of him. I think he takes a lot of dumb shots and is kind of a stat patter, in my opinion.
I'm not
the biggest Westbrook guy.
But Harden, I think Harden.
They don't scare me a lot.
If Harden had better guys around him throughout his career, he'd at least
had some pretty good
to a finals.
He's had some pretty good guys.
I think it seems that way because Harden makes them that good. That team on paper the last 2 or 3 years is not that good. They had no business winning 63 games or whatever they did, like 2 or 3 years ago. Harden's that good.
Chris Paul,
He is that good.
Gordon. Obviously, Capella's not there this year, but Capella's a very solid
nowhere
player.
near as good as the 1 and 2 seeds have been, it's nowhere near as good as the Warriors have been.
Oh, they're not on that
and
level.
Even some of the teams the Celtics had, or the Lakers this year. I mean, Harden
they are not on that level. No, but I don't think they have had bad teams. I'll put it that way. They have had their fair chance.
I think Harden gets trashed on a little bit too much.
Yeah, well, win me more than one playoff series, and I'll stop trashing on you.
It's pretty hard to when you are so relied upon, and he has not had that much.
Sorry, if you put up 574 3-pointers and make 50 of them. Obviously, that's a huge exaggeration, but that's what it feels like how he's done in the playoffs.
He also averaged 40 a game through like the first 2 months.
I don't know. Maybe they'll pull off an upset. I don't see it happening though. Nuggets and Clippers. Who you got?
Clippers.
I have Clippers in 7. As much as I do not want to see I'm telling you, man, I think sometimes people sleep on the Nuggets.
No.
I think they sleep on them.
No. It's 5.
Oh, get out of here. 5?
Yes.
I don't know. I think you're sleeping on the Nuggets.
Without that Denver court, they ain't making it past 5.
Without the Denver core? What core? What core's missing? Oh, court.
Yeah.
They're going to have their guys. Jokic is the best center in the game for a reason. I'm not worried. I mean, I think they'll lose in 7.
The best player in the game, so.
I don't know. I think the Nuggets are a very well-balanced team. I think they have a lot of guys that can score, a lot of guys that can do a lot of good things. Yes, the Clippers have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, 2 big-name guys. I have the Clippers winning in 7, but I think you're sleeping on the Nuggets a little bit here.
It's not going to 7.
All right, that's fine. Bucks and Heat.
Bucks in 5.
I got Bucks in 6. I think Heat will steal a couple.
I could see Miami's the one team I think that could maybe take Milwaukee to 6 in the second round, just because they're so scrappy and they just find ways to win and they keep they are in every game. But Milwaukee is just too good. I see them winning in 5.
And then Celtics Raptors. Who do you got in this one?
I'd love to see the Raptors, but I'd also love to see my boy Kemba get the job done. I think he's going to. I'll go Celtics in 7.
I have Raptors in 7. I think either team has a legit chance to win, but I think Raptors are going to pull it out. Lakers and Clippers to go to the finals. Battle of LA. Who you got?
I cannot wait for this series. It's going to happen. Everybody knew it was going to happen. By the way, all of a sudden the NBA playoffs are what, like tomorrow? Like It's just all of a sudden like shot up on me. Like, you know, because this is the first time I pretty much care about Lakers since 3 months ago, right? Because in the bubble, like for the most part, I could care less about them. I think I watched like 1/4 of that Clippers game. All of a sudden, like NBA playoffs, all of a sudden they're just boom, they're here, and I'm more excited this year than I have been in a long time because I want LeBron to win one with the Lakers, and they have a really good shot because you know he doesn't have to go against the Warriors in the finals anymore. With that being said, I want to so bad pick the Lakers in the finals, but all year I've been leaning Clippers, even though the Lakers have honestly looked like the better team this year, and they are 2-2 against the Clippers. I think.
Yep. Yeah. They split.
I think the Clippers are better, and honestly, it pains me to say this, but I think Kawhi might be a smidgen better than LeBron right now, and in the fourth. In those 2 Clippers games where they won, it looked like the Lakers were going to have it. And in the fourth quarter, Kawhi just said, "This is mine," and he took over the game and won. And then Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell always keep them in and off the bench. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be between LeBron and Kawhi. It is. Whoever outplays the other one is going to win this series. And I think come fourth quarter, Kawhi's going to get the job done. The Clippers win in 7. But I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong.
I'm gonna be honest. I have not yet even filled out the conference finals for either side, just because I truly had no idea. I think I started this bracket at
I'm
about
pretty
4
confident in
p.m.
the East, but not
4 p.m. my time. So 5 years. And I literally have been sitting here, and I've been even this whole podcast thinking, who am I gonna pick in this series? Because I honestly have no idea. It's tough.
I think
It is
coming into the
tough.
season, everybody thought the Western Conference Finals is going to be the finals between Lakers and Clippers because they didn't realize how good the Bucks are, and the Raptors are good too. And although it's probably a good thing that the finals is probably going to be really competitive too, I kind of wish the East had nobody, so the Western Conference Finals could be like the finals. But with that being said, it's still probably like this series, if it happens, which I think is likely. I honestly think the Western Conference Finals is going to be a bigger series than the finals itself. I really do.
Oh, I agree.
I agree. This is going to possibly be the best Western Conference Finals in the history of NBA basketball if it happens. It's LA, it's Kawhi, it's LeBron. I mean, I cannot wait for it. What are you going to pick one, or you're still waiting?
No, I'm gonna go. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm gonna go with the Clippers in 7. I want to be wrong. I'm like you. Like, don't get me wrong. Love Kawhi, love Paul George, Beverly, Lewin. I got no beef against any of those guys, but LeBron's. I mean, that's my boy. That's my boy. Now, obviously, the Nuggets are my team. But
I've been a LeBron fan since 2003, man. I mean,
yeah.
It baffles me how LeBron only has 3 finals. It's just baffling to me. But if he could somehow win a 4th with a 3rd team, it would do so much for his legacy. And honestly, even if it doesn't, I just want to see it happen so bad. And honestly, I mean, I've never necessarily been a Lakers fan. I've always been a LeBron fan. But I've never in my life had more fun watching a LeBron team than I did this year in the first 3 months of the regular season. This Lakers team was so fun to watch. Dwight Howard was so fun to watch. LeBron with Anthony Davis. Heck, even like KCP, who I thought was terrible, really turned it around and did good. This Lakers team was so fun to watch. Alex Caruso, so fun to watch. I want this team to not only for LeBron. I want this team to win so bad. I know the Lakers have all the championships. The Lakers and the Celtics are like the Yankees. But I want this to happen so bad, and I just cannot wait. But yes, I think unfortunately, like you, I think it's going to be Clippers in 7.
Yeah. I agree. And then we got Bucks and Raptors here. For me, I have Raptors going in 7. I think they are a very well-rounded team. They have been proving people wrong all year.
I hope you're right. Because if the Lakers make the finals, I definitely want them to play the Raptors. Although the Raptors have had success against them. However, I think postseason time, without Kawhi, I just don't think they would be able to get the job done in the finals. I could see them making it, but I just don't. I think it's highly unlikely anybody beats Milwaukee in the East. I really do. They're far and away better than everybody, I think. Toronto's good, but unless they find a way to... Now, with that being said, if a team can find a way to stop Giannis, specifically from driving the lane, if you can stop Giannis from getting into the lane and make him shoot, you have a chance. I don't think Toronto's really built for that, though. I mean, they got Gasol, but I just don't think Toronto's that team. And I don't think they even make it a 7. I think the Bucks win in 6.
I'm interested to see what happens here. We got a finals matchup now. Clippers, Raptors. For me, I have Clippers winning in 5. They are a very good team, a much more rounded team than the Bucks are. So I have the Clippers winning.
If it were Clippers Raptors, I think I would go Clippers in 5 as well. I have Clippers Bucks. Okay. And I think the Clippers would win in... God. I'm pretty confident the Clippers would win because I just think they're the better team. However, although I think the Clippers are going to beat the Lakers, I think the Bucks have a lot better chance against the Clippers than they do the Lakers. Because the best way to beat the Bucks is to just make it so Giannis cannot get into the paint. Well, the Clippers are not that big. Like Zubats is big, but I mean he doesn't even play the big minutes. Harrell's terrific off the bench, and he's a heck of a rebounder, but I don't think Harrell's really going to be able to stop Giannis in the paint. I just don't. I think the Lakers with Davis and McGee and Howard are more designed to beat the Bucks than the Clippers are. Even though I think the Clippers are going to beat the Lakers, I think the Lakers would have a better chance against the Bucks. And if it were Lakers and Bucks, I think I'd take Lakers in 6, if not 7. But I'm still leaning Clippers over Bucks. But I do think the Bucks are the one team that the Clippers do not want to face at all costs. But I will, with that being said, I'm still going to go Clippers in probably 6, just because Kawhi, I think, is that good, and they have Paul George. But I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7, and I could honestly see the Bucks winning. But I'm going to say Clippers in 6.
Let's see what comes of this. Hopefully our predictions are accurate. I hope mine is wrong in the fact that the Nuggets just sweep everyone and win the finals. That ain't going to happen, but I would like to see it. I'd also like to see the Avs win, which could happen.
I think you got a good chance with the Avs. Unfortunately, I don't think you do with the Nuggets. But
I don't think so either. But anyway, so that's the end of our show tonight. Fun show. Predictions are always a fun time to see how we do. So certainly let us know how we did. Let us know who you would pick for your positions for that. It's a good time. Got any final thoughts before we log off for the night, Mr. Doetkott?
MVP in the NBA, who is it? I don't know when they're even picking that. I'm guessing before the finals, but
Probably Giannis.
I guess we did talk about that last show, now that I think of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd lean Giannis too. But
Yep.
We'll see.
We'll see. Anyways, though, folks, thank you for listening to episode 32. If you'd like to follow us on social media, follow myself at Lucas_Dorton, capital L, capital D. If you want to follow Nick at Doetkott or Doetkott, whatever's easier for you. And if you want to follow our Twitter page at DND_podcast, capital D's, capital P, be sure to share, subscribe with all of us, with all the friends, family. And if you'd like to be on a show, certainly let us know. We're doing our NFL offseason team reviews. So if you're somebody as a fan of a team that we might talk about at some point, let us know. We'll get you on. But anyways, folks, thank you for listening. And as for Nick and myself, until next time, we are out.